Lesson learned.
Did I
Day
learn
one.
something
Day
from
one.
last week? Yes.
Day one notes.
Well, I know we're not supposed to sit there, but
I turned it off. It's muted.
that's like one thing.
Yeah, support and like remembering that support means like meeting them where they're at.
Are you guys discussing? You can be discussing right now.
Hey, listen up, listen up.
Hey, listen up.
So, would everyone like to share some answers they talked about? Anyone? 37. I heard you talk. Oh, Bumblebee?
Yeah. Where does their support in a supporting role and kind of comfort through grief and loss?
Absolutely. Yeah. So we're gonna talk about that more. That's pretty spot on. 37.
I mean, we also just talked about the importance of validating their feelings. That, you know, when someone presents their feelings to them, you have to, you know, in the moment, like right then and there, be like, yeah, this is okay. Like, this is how people feel. Like, it's super cool that you feel that way. Like, and then, you know, like, you can deal with it at that time right away instead of, you know, telling them like, oh, wait, like, we can talk about that later.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Instant, not gratification, but letting them know that they can be comfortable talking about it at that time and later is huge. That ties into creating an emotionally safe space, and that's what it's all about. Anyone else? So yeah, similar to what 37 and Bumblebee said, our number one responsibility is to create an emotionally safe space. So this essentially means that we aren't able to always, we're not able to give answers to their issues. Like, that's just not how grief and loss work. But we always are supposed to be there for them and make sure that no matter what the situation, time of day, activity, if they want to be talking about something or they're upset, then in that moment we are creating an emotionally safe space. So now, on a little bit of a lighter note, if we could take a minute or two to just talk to our neighbors again about what we know about brushing our teeth and what we understand about brushing our teeth. Interpret that as you may. It sounds very silly, but you'll understand when we come back together how it ties in.
It's all you.
I don't know anything about that.
You have terrible dental.
We have an air ball. I'm already in school. Yeah, I'm going to Columbia. Yeah, did you take yours? How do you go? That's good. It's such a good feeling. That's such a good feeling. Like getting your score back immediately and having it good. Necessary for good hygiene.
I don't know. No one should hear.
I have no idea.
It's muted. Both things are muted. Not in this way. Not so
Sit down, like normally I like know the age you but like.
Okay, so what do we know about
And I think that would be understanding. I feel like that'd be the understanding, like you need a toothbrush.
What do you know about it?
No.
You know that it's necessary for
Yeah, it's really interesting though. Like I think you both interpreted no one understand. Like I think I would have interpreted understand.
So you guys are saying I'm wrong.
No, mystery.
There's different ways.
Yeah, there's different ways to like.
Or people assume like no. People assume that people understand.
I guess you're right that no would be like what you need.
You have a professional with you.
Yeah, that's why it's so hard.
Okay, so does anyone want to share what they talked about? We can start with Wow Butter, our future dentist.
Well, we were like mainly discussing the nuances between know and understand. There was like a little debate. I was saying that no would be like, you know that it's necessary for dental hygiene and stuff. And then like Olaf and Plato other people, I guess. I don't know. They were a little more just like over the road, but they were saying that would be understanding, and that knowing would be just like knowing that you need toothbrush and like toothpaste and stuff. And I was like that. I feel like that's part of understanding like what you need, like the process. So it's kind of just, yeah. We didn't have enough time. We needed like 10 more minutes.
Nice. Anyone else? Ryan? I heard you guys talking about toothbrush.
I hear you know like the benefits, but like it's kind of like where it ends. I don't know. It's just like some people are always told to be. It's like something we should do.
Yeah. Anyone else?
Kind of like we know how to like use the toothpaste on the brush and yada yada, but we understand why.
Yeah. So you guys are all like seem pretty confused, and that like makes sense because this is a super vague activity, and even though it's something that we're so familiar with, we do multiple times a day, and we're all adults, and it's clearly such a simple task, we can hardly like put words to knowing and understanding what it is. So this really exemplifies how complex it is to talk about and handle grief and loss. If we can't even describe what knowing and understanding brushing teeth is, how difficult must it be not only for an adult to handle grief and loss, but a child who may not even understand like what is going on. So that was the point of that activity, and you guys did a good job highlighting like you recognize like, oh, know and understand, like we should be like diving more into what these mean. Like Wow Butter said, like where is the line between knowing and understanding, and like how do we kind of like can we make understanding and knowing concrete things? And unfortunately, similar to this, with grief and loss, we're not able to make concrete things, and that's why our goal is always to meet people where they're at when they're handling it, when they're handling grief and loss, because we, going into the next slide, we aren't able to counsel and give the campus therapy. We're just not qualified for that. If that's necessary and we feel that they need to be counseled further outside of our creating an emotional safe space and meeting them where they're at and listening and helping them through it, we do have medical professionals on site. But it is just, we have to remember at all times that while we're there to create that safe space and be there for them at all times, we aren't able to counsel or deliver therapy, and we have people at camp for that. So now we should discuss what needs of the campers should we be addressing. When it comes to grieving and loss, the very first thing that anyone experiences is a thinking task. So essentially, the first thing you're confronted with is, how do I think and handle this? Like, how am I going to move forward? And like, what do I do? So that's the first thing you have to consider. And essentially, you just have to recognize that that's the first step, and you move forward into what Allison's going to talk about.
Right.
Rafi, sorry.
Right. So there's a thinking task as well as like the emotional and growing task. So once kids kind of are trying to figure out what's happened, they want to figure out how to emotionally process that and then how to move forward with that. So just to elaborate a little more on the thinking task, we have some questions for you to discuss. But first, it's really important to realize that so many kids are coming from different backgrounds and they might have different understanding of what's happened with cancer. Some kids might not even know that their parent has cancer. They might know their parent's sick. They might not even know that their parent's sick, or that's really why they're at camp, especially with the younger ones. That's more common. But so kids will just like come in with different backgrounds and knowledge about cancer. And it's really important that we know that and are able to meet the kids where they're at. There's so many different factors like age, what if they have siblings or not, their like role in the sibling order, their social support in their community, their school, their parents' willingness to share, and all these other factors that really impact how much a kid might know about what's going on, their situation. So just to remind us, like, it's our job to listen, provide the social support, acknowledge and understand like what might be going on and sort of what they've been told in the past. And it's really important to keep in mind that it's not our job to teach the kids what cancer is, how it's diagnosed, offer our opinion on the prognosis. or try to correct their ideals of belief. It's really important that we're not like doing that. It's just not our role. We're here to provide an emotional safe space only and sort of to allow them to talk to us. And some kids might have major misconceptions about cancer or what's going to happen with their parents, but it's not our job to fix that, or it's just our job to be there for them. And it's important to realize that just how we all have real feelings and experiences as college students, everyone who's here, like all the kids, have just as real feelings and experiences in their lives. Providing positive social support means that we give them like space to express these feelings and not judge them, correct them, or interpret them. So we're going to break down in kind of the groups we were with before, and we're going to go over, talk about these 4 questions. I'll give you guys a couple minutes to do that, maybe 5 or 6 minutes.
Yeah, that's techniques listening.
Sympathy is like, yeah, sympathy is like, oh, I know how that one works. Yeah, empathy is like, I empathize with you and like, oh, like that is really unfortunate, I'm so sorry. Like not trying to put yourself in the same way that way, that's sympathy would be like if I can sympathize with you, that means like I've been through this. So like you being in a physics class, like really sucks. Like I can sympathize with you because I've also been in that class. But like something like cancer, whether we have like cancer or not, that's why it's like
I just felt like it just seems to be like reminding them that whatever they feel is whatever they are, that because they're having this like more valid, like it's normal, they're not like somewhere weird.
I was like, no.
Again, it's important to, like when you tell them, like make sure you're separating, like, I make sure that they know their feelings are valid, like their feelings are understood.
good listening.
Like feeling that we're wrong, or it's like they're feeling that way because of something that might not be like not understand, share more than like it's okay.
That in and of itself is supportive of how it's kind of like this experience.
Just sort of
Really sensitive. That you're supportive. Just so we know,
this is a possibility. How would you feel about that? Because you can't tell them that, you can't be right. You know, they separate, like, the fact that, the fact that this is something correct. That means if I bring that
You might say like, hey, let's follow up with this. Try to talk to the next day. Except like being before they're at and like trying to figure out what's best to support that kid.
Giving an option to talk about so much about I care for you.
I mean, like, unless there's like really
Other people are willing to do
unless there's like really severe
like
needs.
professionals are here to talk to you like go more in depth about like
A lot of the parents will like when they go
like giving them options
letters with their
divulge like all the questions.
They can get like a letter every day. Oh man, no, I like when like the first parent like gave me letters, I was like, what? And I thought of like all the letters like my parents would send me while I was in summer camp. And I was
I know.
I've never run into someone like a team that's
how do you know your parents are in line, right? Did you check the box store when you were in summer camp?
Very applicable.
in the situation, just like do the same thing as you said. Your response is
Don't want that.
I've never heard that.
Alright, we're gonna come back together, discuss our answers. Do you guys want to talk about like the first questions? What you guys discussed? Sure.
Yeah. So we talked about like sympathy implies that like if I can sympathize with you, then we've gone through the situation, I guess like the same situation together. So I said like if Airball and I have been in the same class, then I can sympathize with her about like how hard the class is because we've like been through that experience together. Empathizing recognizes that you haven't gone through the exact same situation as someone else, and you want to just offer them support nonetheless. So like saying a phrase like to a camper like, oh, I've been through something like that I know how hard it was for me, that really sucks. That's sympathizing and not really that effective because you don't actually know their situation and you certainly didn't go through exactly what they went through. Whereas if you empathize and say like, that's really unfortunate, I'm so sorry, your feelings are totally valid, let me be here to support, that's empathizing and that you recognize how tough that situation was for them, but you're not trying to put yourself on the same level as they are. So.
Plato's exactly right with that one. If a camper is opening up to you or like any conversation talking about their own experience, it's really important that you acknowledge that what they're feeling is valid and just like are there to listen without like sympathizing. Which group wants to take the second question? You want to go?
Yeah. So I think it's important to show the campers that you care about what they're saying, and that like you can't just like sit there and just like nod at them. Like you need to be like inquisitive, but not like prying at them. You know what I mean? Kind of like showing that you're interested, showing that you care what they're saying. Because I feel like a lot of kids, especially like at younger age, are dismissed. Like at least back, obviously we don't know a lot about all those kids that call life, but a lot of like times kids will say something a lot of people won't take them seriously. So I think you need to show that you're like taking them seriously, and that what they're saying matters to you.
Exactly. Like it goes back to like the active listening stuff we talked about in the past and making sure like you're creating an opportunity for them to share with you in like the right space and getting like the right message across. What group wants to talk about with their question? Do you guys want to do it?
Yeah. We talked about how like specifically like, meeting them where they're at, but like I don't know. I found that this was like pretty similar to the empathy question insofar as like it's their own experience and we're there purely to like create this atmosphere where they can feel their experience and just like active listening is a part of that and then just trying to like create the best atmosphere you can to support and acknowledge what they're going through.
Exactly. Like we've talked about this, but using like saying like that must have been really hard, or you're really strong, or even thank you for telling me that can like go a long way with making sure campers are like feeling acknowledged and validated. And you guys in the back want to talk about the fourth question?
respond to what they're giving to you, and then again sympathize with their situation. It's kind of a case by case, or empathize. Excuse me. It's a case by case situation, but if they say something, then you can say anything to correct them.
That's exactly it. Yeah, you can respond to how they're feeling and say, yeah, again, like, thank you for telling me you're really strong, like, all that sort of thing, but without, like, correcting them. That's exactly right. So next, we're going to go into, like, the emotional task, which is how kids are processing how they're feeling and how they're showing it. So they can do this through words, play, and behavior. So to go into words, like, as we know, some kids are absolute chatterboxes. They want to tell you everything about their day, and some kids are a little more reserved and don't want to share as much. So they're all normal reactions to something that's going on. Sometimes kids want to share, sometimes they don't. So can anyone name some techniques for creating a safe space for kids to express their feelings? We talked about,
Counting chats. I kind of like opening it up and like allowing kids like express and you like feeling a bit shy and you like kind of starting up yourself and all of them.
exactly, yeah, like showing that it's okay to share and kind of setting an appropriate stage for that. Does anyone else have any ideas?
I think setting up different opportunities for sharing, so some kids might want to talk in front of the group while others might want to be more one-on-one, so, you know, giving them the opportunity to talk to you personally or like in a group, and it would be that empowerment, so.
Exactly.
Not showing any judgment when somebody does share.
Exactly.
And I would say like not treating every camper with the respect that they deserve like 100% of the time, not just when they're sharing something really intense with you, but even during regular interactions. If you are treating like a camper like a little kid, then they're not going to be as willing to share things with you in the future because they don't see that level of respect. So just kind of always carrying the same level of respect for all campers throughout the week.
Exactly, like establishing yourself as a person that people can share with, and as a role model, and someone they can feel close to. Anyone else have?
I mean, also just like trying to connect and talk to campers like throughout the week, like build a rapport with your campers. Not like it's outside of just like when like formal sharing time. Like you should like be constantly trying to connect with your campers.
Exactly. Yeah. So some of the things that those are all like phenomenal answers. Some of the other ones that yeah, just like listening carefully, like without judgment, like you said. All the other formal times we talked about. And like we talked about this, but avoiding statements like I understand, I know, but using statements like that's tough, that's really tough, thanks for sharing with me, things like that. So moving into the next one, kids can kind of like play is really, really important for kids of all ages. It helps kids learn a lot of important skills like leadership, communication, appropriate social interactions, negotiation, self-expression, responsibility, and it kind of helps kids develop these skills through this grief. So we can talk to a large group, sort of like about how the specific activities at camp, like what that activity is, and then what it can help kids get like from it. Like Gaga Ball can really help kids develop leadership, like how we can sort of facilitate that at camp. You guys can discuss in your groups for a minute or two.
Like how play versus how they can develop.
Do you want to be the best co-director of all time forever? Oh.
You want a full call?
No, that's fine.
What's the question again?
So it's sort of like what activities at camp can help kids develop like skills and like how Gaga helps like teamwork and like confidence and stuff like that.
And
So they can help with
if they're grieving, they might not be as capable of developing these skills, but at camp they're forced to do these activities and consequently continue to develop skills where they might have otherwise just retreated into their shell.
yes, any personal skills. Just for a minute or two to talk about it.
Shows up like saves the day with his card. Yeah, I love that. It's great. I think it's really good.
It is. I don't remember the card.
But that's like a good if emotions are bottled up, like
Team building.
All right. Does anyone want to share a little bit about what they talked about?
I can start it off.
Yeah, I was gonna say you have one.
So the talent show is a great example of a time that the kids can develop confidence. And the reason why that's important is when people are grieving, they often kind of like retreat into a shell and aren't as likely to continue to foster and grow their personal like soft skills. And by putting the kids in these situations, such as like playing games like on developing leadership, or participating in a talent show where they stand in front of a bunch of people and do something and are like they can gain confidence, they can kind of push through that barrier that grieving kind of puts on them and continue to grow, which is incredibly important.
We talked about how a lot of like the bigger group games, when all of camp is together, like capture the flag and stuff like that, is a great opportunity for them to develop like communication and cooperation.
Exactly. Could you get like one or two more maybe?
I think, sorry.
You first, and then
I think
first.
some of the games that we play, including like relay races and things, can help with team building and help the campers learn to rely on each other and figure out that they can trust one another, which is really important for type of grief.
I was just gonna agree with like what Brady said, like the bigger like team activities, like it helps like teamwork and stuff like that, and kind of make kids realize that we are all like on the same team, like we're other people who like share some of the grand side, and like we're all in a team like together, so it kind of helps with like that too. So
Exactly.
I think something like even as simple as like mealtime, like taking initiative to go get the food or the dishes like we need for the table, and then also like responsibility, like holding yourself accountable to that role.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly it. It's like play is at camp, all the different activities are a really good opportunity for kids to develop a lot of skills, get to know each other better, and sort of, yeah, like as Simba was saying, develop the skills to help them kind of keep growing even through a really difficult time. So next we're going to move on to the behavior one. So we learn about a lot about kids from observing what they do. So I passed out a worksheet to everybody with different ways that kids might show feelings, and we're going to break up and talk about and do like our small groups again and just discuss them, and sort of they have the how to help suggestions, but maybe think of some more concrete examples of how to help these behaviors at camp. Now to still promote a positive experience even when kids are expressing this way. So does this group, why don't you take inwardly directed behavior, you guys can take outwardly directed behavior, and then all in the back, both you groups can talk about overachieving behavior and how we can recognize that at camp and work with the kids to solve a positive experience. Yeah, it's a counselor what you can do and then what you can do.
One of the most
Behavior.
behavior is that just like Nadia, and that like happens frequently. We'll have like some kids like as much. And it's trying to keep an eye on it, and then keep that and stuff. Try and make sure that they like I think there's not
they know how to act. If they do something wrong, maybe
there's something that you do and can't
if they heard it before,
there's something hard that they like
sort of like understand told them like, oh, like before we ever do this, and then so then if they do something else, they know they're done.
Yeah, that would be hard to do. And then, but then to a certain degree, you have to be careful not to over satisfy them too, because like I've had campers that like I don't know, like they'll like cry about like you can't like go and like immediately like pretend that I'm probably trying to cry because like if you do that to a degree like that will like make them want to do it first and then they like freak out. It's just like
Yeah, we have that issue all the time.
yeah.
Like kids trying to demand counseling to think like the hardest balance is like also how long is I mean there has been times
I'll just like run away. It's like really like new.
and also but I think like
Or he'll just go
it becomes really easy to recognize like who's doing it over about
Oh, I understand.
But even the ones that aren't like intentionally doing it for attention, like I don't know. I'm thinking of like vlogging YouTuber and like I don't think he's consciously doing it for attention, but like at the same time I think us constantly tending to it too much like does kind of perpetuate the lie.
yeah, so I think that I was like it's harder with others, but like if we can get them to like also try to be supported by their fellow gamers. Like if you can show them that like you need help right now and like get them to recognize like we as counselors like can't help you 24/7 just because then we like
But also like
your kids are also going to support you, and if you can find like a camper to like really help you with it, camper that would go a long way. If they know they have like their one they're gonna want to go. You're so strong. It's like figure it out.
Hey, listen up, listen up.
Hey, listen up.
All right, we're gonna go back together and share. Which group wants to start? Like just kind of what you shared. Yeah.
So we had overachieving behavior and some of the points on how to help like encouraging a child to do fun activities or facing silliness. But something is that not like silliness can be different for every kid, and so just kind of seeing how they have fun. Like it may be something as small as like letting them choose the music or having them teach you a card game that they like, because you can't really expect them to maybe go out and like do a dance party or something, but like finding where they're at and where they have fun is important.
That's exactly. A lot of that comes from getting to know your cabin really well and getting to know which campers are the more extroverted ones, but also making sure you look out for the campers that don't express themselves in that way, the ones that prefer to have more quiet activities. That's awesome. Does anyone else want to share?
We had the outwardly directed behavior, and we talked about, really the most important, it was already on here, but really the most important part is creating those consistent boundaries where, like the sooner you tell them what you're going to expect from them at a certain time, like, these kids are really smart, like, if you tell them that, like, you're going to want them to do this, and then they don't do that, like, they know that they've messed up, and so if you tell them that they've messed up, they at least understand that, I should have known this, like, I'll know this for next time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
important to keep in mind with all these behaviors is sometimes it's really easy to get frustrated when something is consistently going wrong or a camper is like exhibiting behavior that it makes it really difficult to work with. But it's really important to remember that kind of what's going on underneath, and that a lot of times this behavior, it's showing something else. It's manifesting maybe different emotions and different feelings. So keeping that in mind and really making sure we try to stay patient and understanding, and making sure that if you do need to tap out or if a situation is escalating, you have other counselors to support you, and as well as the MHPs, the camp advisors, the directors. There's always, if you're ever getting frustrated, there's always someone else that can come in and help you too. Like, you're never alone in that kind of situation if someone's exhibiting behavior like that. Does anyone else have any behaviors they want to talk about?
So we were in with the directed behavior. So a few things talked about. Danny mentioned that like if the child's not participating, kind of have to like strike a balance between like trying to get them involved and like have fun, but also meeting them where they're at, not forcing them to do anything they don't want to do. And then we also kind of got into a little bit of like how to know when a kid's just like looking for attention versus when they actually need support, which I think comes like with knowing your campers, and it's easier to figure out through the week. But yeah, so just like trying to knowing your campers individually and like finding the best ways to support them and just like trying to get them involved.
Exactly, and like some of like what you're saying, getting to know your campers, and also if you're ever in a situation where you're not sure what the appropriate boundary is, or you're not sure how much a camper is like coming to you for support, utilizing the mental health professional that we have, she's a really great resource. The ones we have at camp, they're phenomenal. They can help you figure out what the right balance is between like supporting them and helping them grow. So they're like really great resources. All right, so next we're gonna move on to the growing task. Now that we've sort of touched on the emotional task. And a lot of times the campers are struggling with normalcy, and the work we do at camp is one way to achieve like a sense of normalcy in life. So we're gonna spend like about 5 minutes as a large group brainstorming the things that camp provides in terms of normal, like developmentally appropriate experiences. We kind of talked about this, but things like making friends and trying new things. So we can talk about that as a group. Yeah, so we're gonna talk about we talked about this a little bit, but sort of what does camp provide for kids besides like making new friends, trying new things like that. Yeah, we can just talk about that. Yeah, we can just talk about that as a big group too. Oh. Yeah.
I always talk about the idea like camp is whatever the kids like need to be, like it's really committed to what they want, like what they need to be for the week, but it's also an opportunity for them to get away from like home for the week and like be a kid again, and like to meet a lot of other kids who are going through the same thing and share their experiences and like relate to on a level that they can't relate to a lot of other people maybe at school or sports.
That's exactly right. Like you said, like every kid needs something different out of camp or wants something different out of camp, or each year they might need something different out of camp as they keep coming. So keeping that in mind is really important.
So as far as normalcy goes, it kind of, a really like broad answer to this is something we often mention about what Camp CASP is, and it's about the kids having an experience for a week getting to be kids, and all of these things that are the normal experiences are just that, just like what Fizz was saying. It's just like them getting to be kids for a week and not having to worry about what's going on at home and all of that difficult stuff.
Yeah, when kids are at camp, they can be whatever they want to be. They can be the star of the talent show, they can be like the Gaga pit champion, they can do any arts and crafts their heart desires. It's really just getting to have these really cool experiences to meet new people, try new things, develop confidence, and just get to do a lot of things that they don't normally get to do, just like having fun, things like that, which is camp in general, but especially ours. And so, just to reiterate, kind of the most important, like what we can do for our campers, like we said, creating an emotionally safe space. We can be there, listen, and it's really important to include involve the mental health professional. This was on one of the slides before, but just to reiterate, if a camper ever discloses something to you that they're going to harm themselves or others, like we are mandatory reporters, like we have to report it to the MHP. We'll talk about that later, but that's just something that we need to keep in mind just as we're going out like throughout our interactions with the campers during the week, because you never really know when a camper is going to open up to you or say something that you weren't ready to hear, or you weren't you didn't see it coming. So it's really important to keep that in mind from day one, that we're there to listen to the campers, and then we're there to like help them get the help they need if they say something like that. And then if you're ever in a situation where campers like reaching out to you and opening up to you at all, even without that, the MHP is a really, really, really great resource. I can't reiterate that enough. Phenomenal in like making sure that you have the support you need to help with that camper, making sure that camper has the support they need as well. So I have one final closing activity. So could everyone close your eyes? Take some deep breaths and just relax. And so just think about a time, take a minute, when you felt loved, safe, and happy. All right, you can open your eyes. So for how many of you guys were you can raise your hands, were you with other people? How many of you were outside in your happy place? Were you doing something you like to do? Were you having fun? Exactly. So just by being, a lot of these experiences kind of relate to being at camp. So just by being at camp, we're providing kids an opportunity to like find people they relate to and find a place where they feel emotionally safe, they feel loved, they feel safe, they feel happy. So sometimes just being at camp and just being there is something that we can really do to help grief and loss. Thanks, guys.